Yes,
And let's try and take the resident mule deer antlerless hunt, depredation hunt 1101 and 1181 together.
okay. So, for the record, Cody Shore, Wildlife Center, we don't really have a whole lot of, I don't have a whole lot of comment on these. I noticed there was, cab recommendation on the Area 7 doe hunt. That's a new hunt. So we were coming in with, around 7% of the doe harvest on that, and I just punched the numbers out for the cab recommendation of 650, and it really is not a whole lot of a trivial amount. It results in about 5.5% impact on the doe harvest. So the department is totally comfortable with that recommendation.
Any questions from the board or comment? All right, County Advisory Board comment on hunts 1101 and 1181.
Fern Winder, Elko County Cab. On the 1181 hunt, it is a new hunt, and they came in with the recommendations over 800 tags. And we understand, talking to the biologist, she said that we need the doe hunt, that they're at carrying capacity. So we understood that, and the reason we took it down to 650 is we figured 650 is, for a first time hunt, is more than enough. And looking at Area 10, when they established doe hunt, they had over a 50% kill ratio. So we took it down to 650. We figured 650, yeah, we understand there's a reason for it, to have that doe hunt.
Okay, thank you. Additional cab input on those two hunts, 1101 or 1181? Public comment, Reno? Any public comment in Las Vegas?
No comment in Las Vegas, Chair.
Elko?
No comment in Elko.
Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. Any question or discussion? If not, I entertain a motion on hunts 1101 and 1181.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the resident mule deer antlerless any legal weapon depredation hunt 1101 as presented by the department, and approve the resident mule deer antlerless any legal weapon hunt 1181 as presented by the department with the following change: that in unit group 071 to 079 and 091, the number of the quota be reduced from 800 to 650.
Second. Okay, I've got a motion and a second to adopt hunt 1101 as presented and 1181 with the one change outlined by Commissioner Johnston. Are there any questions or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we'll move to page 21 and 22. This is the resident mule deer antlered any legal weapon hunt 1331, and we do have a handful of recommended changes. So, Cody, anything to add before we get into this?
Yeah, I would actually like to address at least some of the comments. I won't try to go through them all, but I did notice the Eureka County comments about the skepticism on in the population models and the perceptions from the hunters in the field. I'll just say that we work really hard. I have full confidence in all of our biologists. We all get together. We get together on a region-wide basis. We get together on a statewide basis. It's sort of a peer review process. Biologists fly with one another on their particular surveys. I have flown these surveys myself, and so I'm not skeptical. When I looked at the numbers, I just did a quick look. Area 13, 14, and 15 combined had a 51% success rate, which is 11 points above the statewide average for rifle. So we really see no indication of a dip in hunter success or indicators we might have for those areas. Now, I will concede the comments about Area 14. We have seen a dip in the 4-point or better, and we have seen a dip in Area 14 just in populations. We've been concerned about that. So we acknowledge that there has been a decline in the quality, if you will, in that area. But it has turned the corner in our opinion, so we've got decent recruitment the last couple of years, and our recommendations are again right at that $30 per 100 does for that area. Area 15 is one area where that is the one that stands out. We've been kind of chasing the buck ratio around that area. This year on our survey, we counted over $40 per 100 does, and that's reflective of that sort of aggressive increase in quota for that unit. But really, when you look at success rate, 4 point or better, we really haven't seen any indicators that there's no deer has been stated in some comments. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, any questions for Cody or discussion? Or open it up for county advisory boards? Yep. Commissioner Bliss.
Mr. Schroeder, I did attend the Eureka CAB meeting and listened to their concerns and also, living in the county of Eureka, I engage with sportsmen of that community every day. And the county advisory board recommendation is kind of a general consensus of the sportsmen in the county that hunt there. One of the big deals that they talk about is the 28% 4-point buck harvest is, I think, the second lowest in the state. And so, and even in my mind, I would think that if it is generally been that way, it seems like more of our bucks that we are recruiting into the system are being harvested annually, and maybe that we are at harvesting animals before they reach that 3-year-old or 4-year-old age class with that trend. And so, with that being said, and with what I hear throughout the community there, I do support the reduction in pay because of that. I do agree that we're getting decent fawn recruitment with a lot of the work and efforts that's been going in to Eureka County with some water developments, PJ thinning stuff, competitive projects. But the biologist stated that there still is some issue with the overall deer population in the unit. And I guess I kind of fall along the same lines with the county.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just respond to that.
Yep.
Yeah, I echo the concerns. I guess I would ask the question, most of the comments were directed at Area 14, where we did acknowledge, we have seen a dip in the population and the quality. But 13 and 15, we certainly have not seen that. 13 has been great. In fact, the picture that I showed at the end of my presentation was a buck from Area 13 last year, one of our own biologists, Sean Espinoza. That's a great buck, and we've been really pleased with the quality in that area. 15, we've been kind of erratic on the quotas, I realize, but again, with that over 40 bucks observed, we recognize an opportunity to let people have tags out there. So I would, in terms of the, having all the areas 13, 14, and 15 go back to the 2014 levels, I would just express caution on that level, I guess.
Mr. Bliss.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues that I've had with Area 15 is how sporadic the quota's been. It went from pretty good, people fairly happy, to a huge increase in tags with lots of mad people and still mad about it all. Extremely mad, some of them. And then it bounced all over, and then last year it goes clear to 140, and now it's a double in tags. And as you guys all know, I'm more of a baby steps type of guy and the approaches that I take. And so I have met with Kim on the issues and understand that buck ratio, but I just don't like seeing huge jumps from year to year. I'd rather see it a little smaller. That's just my thoughts on it.
Okay. Commissioner McNash.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to go back to the old mule deer bulletin that was put together by Tony Wassley. And one of the slides that stuck out to me most, one of the things had to talk about a 5% reduction in body mass resulted in a 50% reduction in horn mass. And antler growth. And that to me seems, so what that's telling me is, you know, I know that there's always a conversation about genetics and age, but it seems to do more with the condition of that animal and their ability. They're not going to sacrifice their body for horns. So the reduction in the horn growth in some of these areas seems to me to be more a case of animal health, and maybe that's an indication that more should be taken out. So that's kind of what I'm trying to balance here a little bit, is looking back on that mule deer bulletin and trying to process. You know, we've always talked about managing for grown horn growth, and you know, if it's not necessarily out there like that. So I don't know, Cody, how much does that play into it in this case, do you think?
I mean, certainly, we have that in our minds too, and both with the doe quota recommendations, that's one of the, you know, our emphasis behind that is just trying to reduce the overall density so that there's not as much competition for everybody to go around, especially on winter ranges when the bucks and the does are together, concentrated. And the same can be said true for bucks. That is one of the objectives of the 30 bucks, is to kind of strike a balance between, you know, giving out opportunity, hunter opportunity, but also, you know, not letting the buck ratio skyrocket to where you are impacting. And I would say, given the drought conditions we've seen, it's even more true. I mean, deer are highly selective foragers. They're concentrate selective foragers. So food quality is more important to them than it is to, say, an elk that can consume grasses and things of poor forage quality. So I would echo those comments. We definitely have that in mind, and that's one of our, you know, that's one of the points of us coming in with some of these quotas that are a little bit higher, given the conditions.
If I could, real quick, and that's not a reflection on distrust for Eureka, you know, or questioning their skepticism. I appreciate that you guys are out there, you know, that you've taken the interest to go to the extent that you have to evaluate. But you know, for me, my tendency is, you know, in situations like this, tends to fall towards the department more than anything. And for me, some of that stuff makes sense in that. So that's just kind of where I'm starting to fall, because there are some big changes here. There's some differences here. There are in a couple of these areas. So.
Mr. Bliss?
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you guys are saying, but it's just simply not the case in Diamond right now. Mr. Evans talked about the drought and stuff like that, which is true, but the fact is that we've had some very mild winters. We've had some okay springs where we had grasses, but we had fantastic fall rains, and our deer went in the last 2 or 3 years, it went into the winter in very good body condition. They survived the winter. They didn't have to use excess energy to even barely have to try to stay warm, as Miles has been, and that's been the case for the last while. The area biologist did not indicate at all that his increase in these tags were due to body condition of the deer. It was solely on he had higher fawn recruitment. And so, like I say, I totally understand and I agree with the body condition of animals and their antler growth and survivability, but it's just simply not the case in Area 14.
Yeah, my comments were largely based on the thought that we were, you know, give the bucks a chance to grow into the, you know, to grow larger horns, and I guess that was what I'm kind of responding to, is that I'm not I struggle with that.
One, if I could make one comment, if that is a struggle, then sometime in the future, I would maybe suggest taking some tooth data to see how old the bucks really are.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to comment on that too, if I could, make.
Yep, go ahead.
So to get the differences we've seen, I acknowledge what Commissioner Bliss is saying in Area 14. If there was one of these I would live with, that would definitely be it, to go back to the 2014 levels for Area 14. 13 and 15, I am a little more concerned about that creeping buck ratio. So if we had to give and I had a choice, I would definitely go with Area 14. We are, with regard to tooth age, we actually have started a tooth age collection. We kind of rolled it out last year on a small scale. We looked at area 13, we looked at 231. It's kind of some of our more quality areas, but we do anticipate to roll that out on a larger scale as we get more funding and we kind of get people in the mode of doing that. But we are concerned with, addressing age along with 4 points better. So, with that.
Additional discussion? I think I appreciate the discussion, and I guess the only thing I'd say is I tend, just based on this discussion, so people can try and sway me, I guess, out of fairness, is I lean towards the department on 13 and the cab on 14, and in terms of 15, I'm struggling with that one a little bit, just based on, I know the fact that we've got some doe hunts in that area, and we're trying to get some of those numbers down and get a handle on that herd. It seems like some of the recommendations are pretty big from where the department's at and what we're trying to do there, but I could probably be swayed, so. Any other discussion or question for Mr. Schroeder at this point?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So 15 has been somewhat problematic from a survey and harvest standpoint. In hindsight, last year, we were probably a little too conservative on our quota. You see that big jump this year. It's pretty much a direct reflection that we kind of undershot our objective last year. We had a fairly poor survey, and after a couple years of high harvest, our biologist was a little bit hesitant on his bucks, and so we went ultra conservative last year, and now we're trying to play catch up. But I certainly wouldn't, push 100% for ours. I would recognize some compromise there on 15 as well.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I would note too, and I don't know if we've addressed, but in Area 15, we've got input from both Lander and Eureka counties. I think Lander had recommended a quota of 200, which is a slight increase from last year at 140. It's a little more than Eureka's recommendation at 140. Hearing the department work with some compromise there in Area 15, there might be some sort of common ground there around that 200 number, maybe slightly higher. I don't want to just pick a number out of the air, but there seems to be some room for compromise.
Additional discussion by the board? All right, county advisory boards. Mule Deer 1331, come on up.
Ray Sawyer, White Pine County. The only thing that we were asking is in the mid-hunt 221 through 223 to take the tag from 160 to 130. We see that Lincoln County is addressing that. Also, wanted to drop it to 140. So, we'll let the board make a decision. But we just think there's a lot of pressure in that mid-hunt, and there could be some issues. Thank you.
Next county.
Jim Evans, Eureka Cab. I wanted to bring forward some information relative to our assessment of Area 15. Most of the folks that we visit with that are hunting Area 15 from our locale are hunting the Simpson Park area, Bates Mountain. And there's 4 primary accesses. There's 3 on the Grass Valley side, actually 5 accesses, and 2 on the Coba Valley side. Typically, Bates Mountain, Bates Mountain is a real popular area because of the habitat scenario. It's a beautiful spot. You can access the top of the mountain readily and easily. It gets a high number of hunters because of the fact that it is readily accessible. That's one of the reasons why we've fielded a number of complaints relative to inadequate hunting opportunity and poor success. There's it's an area that's readily accessible. This has been the scenario in Area 15, at least on the Bates and Simpson, for several years. So I've had the opportunity in the last 5 years or so to fly Bates Mountain. I do some consulting for some mining companies over there, and I've had the opportunity to look at it. I'm doing habitat assessments on Bates Mountain. And the numbers there are not, I mean, when you compare Simpson Park Bates to, as an example, the Cortez Range, there's a huge difference or variance in overall numbers relative to the deer population, unquestionably. So a couple of problems I see. Density is probably a more significant issue at this point in time. How Bates compares to the majority of Area 15, I don't really have a good feel for Area 15 in general. It would be good to have some of the Lander County folks here to provide some commentary. But Bates Mountain is an area that gets a lot of pressure, and you will have, it is a hard hunt, there's no question about it. I've hunted it afoot, I've hunted it horseback, I've flown it, and the numbers are probably not there in overall numbers as compared to, as an example, the majority or the remainder, the other areas within Area 15. One question I wanted to address relative to Commissioner McNitch's question regarding antler growth. We were more so, the cab, again, I wanted to emphasize that we do agree with the department's classification relative to population dynamics. I think they're real close, and but horn growth's really not the issue. We're looking at 2 and 3 point deer that are readily or easily classified in terms of age class. So I don't think that's where we're going. We're looking at the overall picture relative to the dynamics of the population, not so much the issue relative to horn growth. Okay. So, thank you.
I'm Casanelli with Humboldt County. We had 2 recommendations that kind of are explanations for our reductions. And the first one, we wanted to reduce 035 down to 75 tags, and along with that was 051 down to 250 tags. And the reasoning for those 2 was we lengthened that season. We feel that we're going to have a little better hunter success in those 2 units, and the drought. It's going to concentrate those deer all in smaller areas and concentrate the hunters in the little tighter areas. 043 and 046, we recommended to go back to last year's quotas, and our reasoning for that is we have the Sonoma range and the Tobin range, and the Tobin range has limited access, and the Tobin's where the majority of the deer are being counted, and it's really pushing a lot of hunters into the Sonomas. And in the next year, we'll probably follow up with trying to split these units apart and having a separate unit for the Sonomas, and that'd be one of our requests. But the Sonomas sit right behind Winnemucca, real close to town, and get a lot of pressure on it, and it's pretty good unit. It produces some pretty nice deer, and a lot of 4 points or better. And that was our reasoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Prim, Persian Cab. I'm only going to talk about 043 to 046, like what Tom was just talking about, the early and the late season. We'd like to see the numbers reduced also, but we took it a little further than Tom to reduce it to 170 and to 70 in the early and late respective. That's a total of 240 tags in there. The department's recommending 305, and the numbers that Tom gave out, that was 272 from last year. And in that unit, there was no survey done. We have had a low recruitment for a couple of years in there. Last year on that early hunt, they had a 39% success rate, and on that late hunt, they had a 50%. I mean, and I know you're going back to the horn growth based on feed and health, but they had a 23% over 4 point in that early hunt and 49 in the late. So we just like to see those tags reduced to 170 and 70.
cab. Yeah, Mr. Sawyer talked about 221, 223 mid-hunt. We thought we could drop that 20 tags. That would still represent a little bit of an increase from last year. It does get a little congested, the youth hunt's going on through there. You know, the success is so-so. I just didn't think it would hurt too much, and that's what we're recommending.
Sean Shea, Washoe County. We recommended an 0-3 early. Like I said, that whole 0-3 we cut by 25%. And when they do their surveys, if you look at their counts, I mean, it's including 0-4 in that count. And 0-4 has just got, I mean, it's got a lot of deer in it. So, I mean, I bet you there's half the deer in all of unit 01 or in 0-4. So we recommended cutting that early hunt from 140 to 105 and that late hunt from 40 to 30. And then if you look in the Sheldon, what we've done is we've cut the early hunt from 45 to 23 and the late hunt from 25 to 13. And that's just going straight across the board for rifle, archery, and muzzleloader straight off. And like I said, I talked to the Endow's warden that wardens northern Washoe, and he's not seeing the deer he's used to seeing. He drives around that night, and he really can't believe that he's not seeing the deer. You know, I hear antler, all these 4 points are better. You know, I don't go off an antler thing because, I mean, I think it's a lot more genetics than you think. If you look at Sheldon, it is heavy 3-point genetics. And so when people say 4 points, I mean, there's some big 3 points. So, I mean, the antler, the whole antler thing doesn't go with me. But just total numbers. And like I said, in the Sheldon, there's no more horses as of this year. They flew. They did not find a deer, and they cut their thing short in an hour and a half in flight no 33. So, and I think we're gonna see more water because there's no more horses. We're gonna see more vegetation, and I think let's be on the conservative side of this, and let's see where the Sheldon goes since there is no horses. So, thanks.
Any other county advisory boards?
That's y'all.
Public comment, Reno? Come on up.
Rex Flower speaking on behalf of myself. I would like you to consider in unit 015, reducing that down to 20. The reason behind that is we've had this severe drought up there. 2 years ago, we had a fire through there. We lost 50,000 acres in Nevada, and another 300,000 in California, butting right up against it. So it's that part of Washoe County, the northern part of Washoe County that butts up to the state line, needs some drastic reduction so we can bring our herds back. Thank you.
Additional public comment, Reno on hunt 1331. Seeing none, public comment, Las Vegas.
No comment in Las Vegas.
How about Elko?
Not in Elko.
We'll bring it up, back up to the board. Cody, anything you wanted to follow up on before I open up to the commissioners?
Yeah, I'll try to address a few of the comments. I won't belabor all of them, but the first one that pops up is access. We heard that in Area 14 and in 041, 043. You know, this is a continual frustration for us as biologists because we can't control the access. We manage these herds, hunt unit groups. We have this issue in the Ruby Mountains as well, where we have, you know, plenty of deer, but it is difficult to access them, at least by vehicle. You know, Pershing County pointed to, and Humboldt County pointing to the difference in the Sonomas and the Tobins. I mean, it's difficult for us. We fly the whole hunt unit group when we make our recommendations based on at the hunt unit group level. Tobins does have access. It has a road that goes almost to the top of it. I've hunted it. You just have to get out of your vehicle and walk out there a ways. So the 222 to 223 mid, our intent there, we actually took tags out of the early season and put them in the mid. That was a recommendation by our new biologist, Cooper Munson, to try to alleviate hunter congestion. So that's where we were with that. we really didn't have an overall increase in 222 quota. We just shifted them from the early to the mid after concerns of the pressures from some of these three season structures. So that's where we're at with that. And then in terms of just the antler growth, I know we've thrown that out there a bit. The 4-point or better, that's for us, it's more of an index of the age structure, not necessarily the quality of antlers and the size of antlers, although that can be impacted by density and drought. There is an element of genetics there. We acknowledge that. So, in terms of some of the northern Washoe units that no deer on survey. 015, for instance, the interstate deer herd. We haven't had a significant winter the last couple of years. That's typically the hunter success is kind of relying on snowfall in the Sierra that pushes the deer into Nevada, and it's just from our standpoint, it's really tough to predict that when that's going to be. But that we did acknowledge these drought conditions, and we reduced our quotas and we adjusted our models in those areas, so we're comfortable with them. But, nothing there that we are totally alarmed about in terms of populations. And we do acknowledge that the spring conditions have been good. The reduction in horses is super promising for the Sheldon. We're hoping that's going to turn around and people are going to start seeing the deer to what they expected on the Sheldon in the next couple of years. That's all I have for those.
Okay. Additional discussion or questions by the board? Commissioner Hitch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, my inclination or my thought on some of this, some of the reductions, like 011 through 013, it seems like the department's made some adjustments there. Maybe the same thing for 33. So I'm not uncomfortable with leaving those as the department recommended. 051 through 056 early. We're going to end up throwing a number out is basically what we're doing. I mean, if we're not going to go with the department's recommendation, we're really balancing the conversation a little bit. So I always tend to lean towards the department a little bit because they've got management goals that they're trying to establish, but it doesn't seem to me like the 250 would be too much. That's the difference between last year's quota and this year's quota. If we're going to play that just seems like an okay place to go, and I don't know if that helps. I think it moves the department in the direction they're going, and maybe it takes a little bit of the pressure off on what Eureka is observing out in their part of the country a little bit. And then with the shifts in the 221 through 223, I would tend to, understanding that a little bit better, I would tend to stick more with what the department's recommended on that, understanding what that was all about.
Okay, additional discussion? I guess, Dave, just to follow up on what you were saying in terms of the Washoe County units, I agree. I think everyone's kind of seeing the same thing, and those quotas are shifting that way. I'm not necessarily discomfortable with the department recommendations, and I'm not necessarily uncomfortable with the CAB recommendations there. I can really kind of shoot in between there. I don't want to swing so far, but like I said, I think the department has recognized some of the challenges there and already adjusted to some degree. So maybe that's a matter of happy medium, and I think I've talked about my other thoughts. The Pershing and Humboldt County discussion on Area 4, kind of, I guess I would favor maybe the Humboldt, but that's just me personally. Additional discussion? If there's not, I would entertain a motion. I'm not going to ask a second time because I know everyone's grappling with this a little bit. So whenever someone's ready.
Chairman, I'll make a stab at it. For resident mule deer, antler, any legal weapon hunt 1331, recommend approval of the quota as recommended with the following provisions. 011, 013 early, from 140 tags to 105. 011, 013 late, from 40 tags to 30 tags.
015 from 35 tags to 25 tags. 033 early from 45 to 23. 033 late from 25 to 13. 035 from 95 to 75. 043 through 046 early, 225 to 170. 043, 046 late, 80 to 70. 051, 275 to 250. 131 to 134 early, 325 to 300. 141 to 145 early, 425 to 355. 151 to 156 early, 350 to 200. And that was it. Okay, we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. So I've got a motion and a second to approve Hunt 1331 with the adjustments that Commissioner Valentine had suggested, and I think the only one I missed was following maybe 035 was your recommendation there, 75?
Yes.
Let's see, the concerns I have with the motion are probably with 015 and 033. Are probably my biggest concerns, and maybe 15 dropping quite that much. That's where I'm at. Further discussion on the motion? Is everyone clear on the motion? I should ask?
Could you go through those ones that you were having, that you didn't like?
015?
To 25 instead of 35?
Correct.
Okay, and then what's the other one?
33 early and late. I'd probably be comfortable being a little higher on that one.
Okay.
Same with 043 to 046. Like I said, I'm probably more favorable to the Humboldt recommendations. Sorry, Joe. It's just me personally. And then 151 to 156 early. Just given what we're dealing with there, I could probably be comfortable at 200, but I'm a little bit uneasy with going quite that low below the department. I know it's been tough, but I think these guys are doing a good job on really trying to get a grasp on that unit. So.
Further comment I have, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Johnston.
I appreciate the effort on the motion. It seems like we're accepting a lot of input from the cabs. I like that. I'd like to accept the input received with respect to 221 to 223 on that bid season. It was a slight decrease. With White Pine and Lincoln cabs proposed a decrease in that season. I think there's a compromise between the two at around 140.
Can you repeat that? 221, you're saying 140?
I believe that was Lincoln. Lincoln Cab's recommendation for that was 140. I believe White Pines was 130. And based upon the comments from White Pine, I think they were comfortable going along with a reduction to 140 with the Lincoln County recommendation. So rather than split the difference, I would make that at one. Or if I was going to file or make a motion, I'd want to see 140 there. It's a reduction consistent with cab input, but not too far off the department recommendation.
So would you like to make that as an amendment, just so we can move forward, or are you comfortable with the rest of the motion?
That's a different question. Let me can I make the amendment first?
Yeah, let's work with that.
I would move to amend the motion to decrease the quota from, I believe it was 160 in the 221 to 223 mid-season, and make that 140.
Do I have a second on that amendment?
Second.
Let's stick with the amendment. Any discussion or question on the amendment specific to 221 and 223 mid? going from 160 to 140. Okay, so what we'll do is vote strictly on the amendment. The amendment is as described. Any question? All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. The amendment carries 7-2. Okay, back to the main motion. Further discussion on this, or do you want to try an amendment? Commissioner McNish?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the motion as well. I'm not gonna be able to support it. I think, I'm concerned that, we're putting in, I don't wanna create more situations like we're having now down in Area 15 next year in a couple of these areas. I have some room for movement, but that one's kind of a big deal to me. I see what the department's trying to do. We've been trying to get back on track for the last 3 or 4 years, and I think we'd have to be a little more aggressive there. And I'm the 033. There's already been some reductions there. I'm not sure that. I know it's just a few more tags, but at the same time, it's been dropped, 30% less anyway already. So.
Okay. Commissioner Lane?
I'm not willing to support the motion either. I am willing to support some decreases in 141 early and late, but.
Commissioner Bliss?
Well, how do you want to do this? Do
You want me to take a stab in the amendment? Or do you want to?
It don't matter.
Yeah, if we can stay on the motion, let's.
I would offer an amendment.
Okay.
That we change, 015, 25 to 30. And go through 3 from 30 to 35.
Hold on. 033 early?
Yeah.
It was 23 was the
Or from
original.
23 to 35. I believe the next one was, 043, 046 early from, 170 to 191. Is that right?
That was the Humboldt recommendation.
And then, I'd also go down to area 13 and amend that from 300 to 325. And then area 151, 156, I would go to 225.
I'll second the motion till then.
Okay. And so we've got an amendment on the floor, and let me read through these changes. So unit 015 would be 30. Unit 033 early would be 35. Unit 043 to 046 early would be 191. Unit 131 to 134 early would be 325. And unit 151 to 156 early would be 225. Is that correct? Yes. I gotta be honest, I'm comfortable with that. So, discussion on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just one question. Area 15 is definitely the one I was, I think that's the one that the department is on your mind a little bit. What does that do? Does 225 get us enough steps in the right direction? Hate to put you in that spot.
Cody's Road, Department of Wildlife. Yeah, I think we're willing to, that sounds like a reasonable compromise to me, realizing that we may have to chip into it on a couple more years if we have to.
Any discussion on the amendment? Everyone's clear on what we're doing? We're voting on an amendment here that I just went over? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so that amendment carries. So we're back to the main motion. Again, let me just make sure I have this right. Cody, please double check me. So the main motion at this point has amended twice for Hunt 1331 is as follows. Department recommendations with the following changes. Hunt unit 011 to 013 early is 105, late 30. 015, 30, 033 early, 35, 033 late, 13, 035, 75, 043 to 046 early, 191, late, 70, 051, 250, 131 to 134 early, 325, 141 to 145 early, 355, 151 to 156 early, 225, 221 to 223 mid, 140. Is that what you had, Cody?
Yes.
Everyone comfortable with the motion? At least in terms of understanding what it does? Any discussion?
Did we get a total on that? Am I asking too much to get a total number? What's at least the decrease, the total decrease, I didn't.
It would take me a minute or two to get it. The total for the 1331, the total decrease? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Give me,
We'd probably need to take a 5-minute break if that's critical to your decision.
That's okay. Let's move forward.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Any further question or discussion? Right, all those in favor of the main motion as amended, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Good work, everyone. Thanks for all the inputs. Cody, thanks for keeping up with us on that. Let's move to page 22, resident mule deer antlered muzzleloader hunt 1371. Cody, any input initially?
nope.
Okay. Discussion by the board? Questions? County advisory boards? Muzzleloader hunt 1371 with mule deer?
Sean Shea, Washoe County. Just to keep our county in sync with the rifle, 011 through 013, we want that from 8 to 6. And then 033, we want that 4 to 2. Just to keep everybody gets equal taken.
Jim Evans again with Eureka, just to maintain consistency relative to our recommendations, static with the 14 levels early. We're looking at let's see here. We're at the same level as 14. We didn't change anything on that particular one.
That was consistent with our sheet as well. Yeah. So no recommended changes? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
For the record, Corey Lytle, Lincoln Cab, for the 1371 muzzleloader for 221 to 223, we recommended bumping it up to 25. And I'll let Mr. Sawyer go next. I wouldn't, speaking on behalf of myself, I wouldn't have any issue with increasing that to 30. Makes up for that rifle reduction.
For the record, Ray Sawyer, Westland County. We'll speak on 221, 223. We did recommend 30, and just to provide a little more opportunity in the muzzleloader hunt. And for 111 through 113, we're also asking for a 20 tag increase to 35. And again, just to provide a little opportunity.
Okay, additional county advisory boards. Just to mention that Mineral, I think unanimously approved 202, 205 through 208 for an increase from 3 to 6. Make sure I got that on the board. further county advisory boards. A public comment in Reno, muzzleloader deer. Las Vegas,
No comment.
Elko,
No comment.
No comment.
okay. Bring it back to the board. The only recommendation I think that I heard that caused me a little bit of pause was on Washoe for 033. Again, you know, the department already cut that in half from 8 to 4, and then we went one step further from 4 to 2. That's a pretty big drop. I think everything else, I'm personally pretty comfortable with. Cody, any inputs or suggestions based on what you've heard?
No, other than just to echo your thoughts on the 023. We were at 8 last year. We cut it in half to 4. They went down to 2. I mean, 2 tags is not biologically, it's kind of insignificant, to be honest with you. But you know, I'll let it be up to you for you to decide that. The 111 going up to 35. I guess I might ask my regional supervisor, Ken Gray, if he has any insights, but we were down already from 25 to 15 on that. Probably not going to mean the difference between too many dead deer, but it is 20 extra tags. So. Ken, do you have any thoughts on that in terms of?
I don't have a problem with that. I don't think it's a big deal.
Okay.
That's the only comment I had for that.
Questions or discussion by the board? Commissioner McNinch?
Yeah, thank you. You know, I see the department propose a reduction from last year, and then, you know, I struggle with considering something that's above last year's quota, which is kind of the baseline. So I think, you know, if nothing else, if we gotta move it up, I'd feel more comfortable just at the 25. I mean, it seems a little counter to take it up above when the department's you know, for some reason, there's a recommendation to go a little bit lower, so.
I guess my thought, and I'll preface this by saying normally I agree with you, but I don't on this one. And the only reason I say that is on the muzzleloader and archery hunts, I think a lot of times you get more fluctuation just based on the demand success. And Cody can tell me I'm wrong if I am. Than anything biologically significant, so I don't necessarily have a problem going up in those cases if those counties prefer those hunts.
I understand that.
Cody, is that true on those hunts? Is it more the demand success dealing with those fluctuations than anything?
Yes, that, Commissioner, Chairman, that's correct. And also when you're dealing with the lower numbers, the demand success formula tends to be a little more volatile from one year to the next because you're just dealing with lower absolute numbers. So that probably was a function of the demand success.
Okay. Additional questions or discussions?
Just a quick comment that, you know, in that 111, 113 request from 15 to 35, I had the same kind of pause, but then hearing from the department, Mr. Gregg, he did not have an objection to it. That gives me more than I need to then make the adjustment at the request of the cab when there's no opposition from the department.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion on Hunt 1371.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the resident mule deer antlered muzzleloader Hunt 1371 as presented by the department, as presented with the following changes. Unit group 011 to 013, reduction in the quota from 8 to 6. And unit group 111, 113, increase from 15 to 35. And unit group 202, 205, 208, increase from 3 to 6. And in unit group 221 to 223, an increase from 20 to 30.
I'll second that. Yep. Had a motion and a second to approve hunt 1371 with the changes that Commissioner Johnston just went over. Is everyone clear on those changes? Okay, is there any question or discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. And we'll go to page 23, resident mule deer antlered archery hunt 1341. Mr. Schroeder, anything to lead us off with?
Mr. Chair, I don't have anything particulars for this one.
County advisor, I'm sorry, questions of Cody or discussion by the board? Not County Advisory Board, mule deer archery?
I'll say Washoe County again. Like I said, for archery, we were just gonna keep those consistent where everybody got straight across, got a deduction, just to keep it even, but, so in unit 013 through 011 through 013, from 30 to 23, and then 033, it was from 10 to 5, and that was just to keep everything consistent.
For the record, Corletta Lincoln Cab, for 221 to 223, we recommended bumping that up to 65, from 50 to 65. And then kind of a flip-flop, for unit 231, we recommended dropping from 55 down to 45.
What was the last one?
231 would go from 55 to 45.
Jim Evans, Eureka Cab again, for consistency purposes again, resident mule deer hunt 1341 archery, maintain the 2014 level of 120 versus the 160 recommendation.
The only other one I see on the sheet is Lander. They wanted to change in 15. Any other county advisory boards? Public comment in Reno, mule deer archery season? Rex?
Rex Flower speaking on behalf of myself. I would like you to look at Unit 015. I realize this is probably a demand success that's created this to go from 4 to 10. But given the fact that junior hunters are receiving 52% less tags this year, and the any legal weapon class is receiving 20% less, I would request that you move this back to 4 as it was in 2014. Thank you.
Sean, did you have something to interject?
Sean Shea, just personal, actually, we'd be okay with that, 015. So I just thought I would let you guys know.
Okay. Additional public input, Reno? Las Vegas on hunt 1341.
No comment in Las Vegas.
Elko?
No comment from Elko.
Bring it back to the board. Cody, on that 015, it is, am I reading this right, that last year the demand, there were only 7 first choice apps?
Mr. Chair, yes, you're correct. So that, again, that is probably a function of the volatility and the low numbers and the low number of returns you got. So probably a demand success.
Questions?
From the department,
Go ahead.
from the department standpoint, I mean, it's not a big deal to us on that difference between 5 and 10.
Additional questions or comment?
Yes, I got one, and I probably should have entered because I was at the meeting, but when I looked through on the mule deer antlered archery hunt, I don't see that recommendation for Eureka County as similar, one that was similar to what the muzzleloader hunt was, or if it actually was missed in this.
Yep, come on up. So we can get that all clear.
I'd just like to make sure we get the county recommendations.
Yeah, Jim Evans again, we did not discuss the archery hunt, to my recall, for Area 15. I don't think we had a solid recommendation on that.
What about 14?
14, we had, decided to maintain that at the 2014 level. That was 120. Okay. We didn't discuss the 15.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yep.
At least on the summary handout that we received from them, actually, the Eureka recommendation is to keep it the same as 2014 for one, yeah, for all 13, 14, 15.
Chairman?
Yeah, like I said, let's get that one
I
straight.
think what went on there, I think there was a cut and paste typo. Because I don't. You don't have a motion? I don't think that we had a definite recommendation for that archery hunt. So I think when the secretary brought that forward into the publication for the recommendation, it was a cut and paste. But I don't think we came up with a solid recommendation for Area 15 for archery. Unless you remember differently.
Okay. But there was the recommendation for Area 14.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Everyone's clear on that? Mr. Schroeder, anything else? No, that's it. Any questions or further discussion by the board? If not, I would entertain a motion on 1341.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the resident mule deer antler archery hunt 1341 as presented by the department with the following changes. Unit group 013 to 0, Unit group 011 to 013, reduction from 30 to 23. Unit group 015, reduction from 10 to 4. Unit group 033, the reduction from 10 to 5. Unit group 141 to 145, a reduction from 160 to 120. Unit group 221 to 223, an increase from 50 to 65, and in unit group 231, a reduction from 55 to 45.
Second. So I've got a motion and a second on Hunt 1341 with the changes presented by Commissioner Johnston. Is everyone clear on the motion and those updates? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.